I'll be on the next level. Sitting by the TV with my feet up, but I'm actually couldn't beat us. Even with cheat codes, still couldn't keep up. I'll be on the next level.
My name is Jamal Edwards, and I'm the founder of SBTV. It's hard to believe that 300 million people suffer with depression across the globe. I wanted to understand more about why this has become such an epidemic, with most suffering in silence. Musicians are apparently 3 times more likely to suffer depression and anxiety than the general public. So I thought I'd speak to some of my friends within the music industry to learn about their personal experiences. I hope you can remind people who are going through dark times that it's okay to talk about it and that you're not alone. SBTV came about when I was 15 and I was running around acting with a camera, filming my mates and uploading videos onto YouTube. Gradually, as the internet blew up, I was able to build a business and then a brand. But that success was sometimes overwhelming, and it came with a huge amount of pressure. I had to become someone that ran a business and employ people from a young age. If I made mistakes, then everyone would know about it, and I think that was the thing that gave me anxiety. Over the years, I've learned how to deal with that a lot better. I've learned to be more vulnerable and talk openly about the stress that I'm sometimes under. And I've also realised it's important to let it out and talk to people openly. Depression and anxiety are mental illnesses that can affect anyone at any point in their life. No one should suffer in silence.
Everyone's got their demons. Everyone's got their demons.
I'm getting cake all year like it's my birthday. Girls can't play, so they...
To start my journey, I went to go and get a trim and meet my mate Desperate Robinson to talk about the positive impact starting a conversation can have.
What would you say to artists that are coming up, that are going through like their ups and downs and wanting to get out of it?
When we talk about mental health and artists, it's not easy because a lot of them are under the pressure of being so visible and having to kind of always portray a certain image, I guess, or look a certain way or act a certain way. So I feel like it's very, especially with the glare of social media now and always kind of being on Instagram, it's very difficult for artists to kind of deal with the kind of the pressures of all of that, I think. Like I see people going through things and nobody else gets to see them, but it's kind of like the backstory behind kind of what everybody sees isn't always glossy. So it's important for people to be able to talk.
Do you feel like the message is portrayed enough in the music?
It's changing because I feel like, say when gangster rap and all that kind of thing was the most prevalent form of hip-hop music, I guess being emotional or showing your emotions or being honest about, you know, actually I'm going through stuff right now, wasn't the thing to do. Like, so for an artist, they weren't talking about that, and then for a fan, I'm like, yo, I'm not gonna come out and say I'm going through stuff. But I feel like now, there's a good trend towards being honest about your own mental health and not being afraid of embracing that you might not be okay.
And do you think like they should learn it from a young age? Obviously people say it's like 16 plus, 18 plus, but do you even think it's younger than that? I think people can have these, like, have effects and get anxious.
I went through a lot of personal family tragedies from like between 11 and 21. So I feel like at an early age, maybe like 13, 14, I should have had therapy. Like, cause like I lost my uncle, he killed himself, and it's like, I really feel like I didn't process that properly. So if I'd had therapy earlier on, maybe, you know, maybe depression and things later on in life maybe wouldn't have come through that way. But then I was like, actually, you know what? I don't want to get past a certain age and actually feel like I haven't lived my life to my full in both in the physical sense and a mental sense, like actually feel like I'm at peace. And I wanted to get there, so I thought, you know, I'm gonna go, before things get bad, I'm gonna go to therapy, and it's helped. So, like, for anybody that knows me, they'll know it's made a difference.
One artist that caught my attention earlier this year is Sasha when she posted an Instagram story talking about her own journey with depression. I wanted to catch up with Sasha to understand why she had taken a step back from social media. Sasha, like what happened? What was going on?
I had to basically delete my Instagram and delete all of my social media and just have a break for myself. I've always suffered from depression and anxiety and stuff. but I felt like that was just like accentuating it. I was just seeing these people that I love doing well, and I was like, felt this like pang of like jealousy, and that was like really horrible for me, because I was like, what? I was like, but I love these people. I want them to do well. I'm always wishing them the best. Like I would never wish them anything but the best. And I found myself like, you know, scrolling through Instagram for hours, and then coming off of it and being like, oh, like, I hate my life. Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm a mess. Like, why am I depressed? Why have I not been able to get out of bed for 4 days? Like, and all of this stuff, and just feeling like shit. And I was just like, I have to do something about this, because I'm just feeling awful.
Thank you for being so open and honest, because obviously some people would have seen your videos and some people look at this and be like, wow, like you're just talking a lot of gems. But how did you like bring yourself back up out of it?
I will try everything to try and get myself out of that mindset. But sometimes you just can't, and it's, you know, it's not a nice experience. It's a really dark experience, but now sometimes I just have to be like, okay, stop beating yourself up about it. This is like part of your life, and you just have to accept it. I don't see any other people talking about it, like, and it's very rare, and I struggled with it myself, where I felt like almost like ashamed of like how I felt, and I was like wary of like telling people that like I was depressed, because I didn't want them to look at me like a damaged person or like damaged goods or whatever. So yeah, I really had to just address it for other people, and I didn't actually realise how important it was for other people to hear that, and how not spoken about it was. Straight away, like the responses started rolling in from like all kinds of people, like from like people who I look at and I'm like, you've obviously got your life together. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you never look like you're having a bad day, because you're constantly on Instagram, and it's like, that's just not the case.
I'm excited to hear the new music. I feel like you're back, but you're back on your own terms.
Yeah, exactly, and that's how I feel, and that's really important for me.
Wicked, thank
Right.
you.
Hit the deck, said that they were balling, I intercept. Come with it, now better send threat. I'ma explode on a track, send text.
I went to meet my friend Cleo, who took a step away from the music scene last year after being subject to online abuse.
It's dinner time, spin 'em like a microwave. The stars right here, no cyberspace. Shoulder to shoulder, how we get lost in the crowd.
So yeah, I'd love to hear more about the journey that you've been on the last few years.
Yeah, so as you probably know, like I haven't been in the industry for a while. I got to a place where I just felt a bit lost with myself musically, my identity. I had gone through something very traumatic, and lies were said about me in a song, and I called on people that were mentioned in rumours to, you know, tell the truth, and literally nobody wanted to get involved, and I had to take that hit, and I had to deal with the online abuse, and it was ridiculous. And I feel like that's something that needs to be addressed within the industry, like abuse within the industry, having respect for each other as artists. There's a lack of that, and I think we need to highlight that and maybe have more discussions about that. There's a lot of, yeah, we stand for young women in the industry, but then you go onto some of these platforms and the comments are literally driven by sexualizing the female artist, and nobody really speaks up about it other than the artist that's going through it.
Trying to cause harnish, all these silly rumours, anything to tarnish. Man said that he slept with me, I don't even know, man. We only fuck with the best, and you ain't know what.
Because obviously when people are typing on the computer, they might not actually realise it's actually affecting you as a person.
No.
And I think that's like...
They don't see the bigger picture of, you know, like me having to look at a phone and there's thousands of them that are coming at you, and they just think, oh, it's just a comment, it's just one person, but actually it can be so overwhelming. The music industry is like a little world. We don't step out and see reality, because a lot of this musical world now is heavily linked to social media. So a lot of us live on social media, we create these ideal selves, and we portray this on social media. And for me, it was very refreshing to step away from social media and the music industry and all the pressures and anxiety that I was going through, and just go traveling in nature and just feel free.
This is a tale of two men, this is Jekyll and Hyde. Have you ever had a war of your mind? It's like I'm two men.
One artist who's talked openly about depression in his music is Dave. I caught up with him to understand how his past has influenced his music.
So one of the main reasons I wanted to come and talk to you is because at a young age there were certain topics that you were covering in your music that I think is very important, and that's why I think you had a lot to say. And one of the things when I first came across you was you dealing with your brothers being inside. And you as a young person, what was going through your head, like your ups and downs? Like obviously you said I think you was the last of your brothers that was left with your mum and all that. How did you deal with it?
Being like younger, when I was like 14, 15, 16, like even like when I was 11, 12, little things like that everyone's meant to be there to see, like you linking your first girl. There's things that like I hadn't, not like I had my life planned out, but I just thought that like these things were there. That's what all I knew. And then to like have my first brother go to prison on such a serious case, and then that was like a pretty big shock. But when my second brother went to prison, and then like he was on remand for a while, but then when he got sentenced, like it was just like I just got knocked for 6 because my mum had to work even more to like just sustain the house, because now my brother couldn't pay to help my mum like pay mortgage and everything, and like my other brother being gone, it was just like a really, really, really dark time. And like it's hard to explain, but it's just the only word that I can use to describe it is dark. Like these times I was even making music, so there was no like real release or any other thing to do. The worst part for me was just like just overthinking the different scenarios, the different possibilities, what people were thinking, saying, like how my life was gonna pan out, like the powerlessness of certain things, like the fact that you can't do anything to help. Like it's just like, it's pretty wild. And then like I was like so, I wouldn't say obsessed, but I was like very, very, very driven and angry, like as to the situation that had happened and like just life in general, because I hadn't found my own sort of thing to like occupy myself with, and just like something that made me want to wake up in the morning and like made me want to like go out and do. Because one thing like that actually overcomes having a negative thing on your mind when you wake up is having something that you want to do when you wake up, like something that you actually look forward to doing. You know, going to sleep hoping that hours will pass so you can wake up and do A, B, C, D, E, F and G. Now, you know, I guess I'm not over anything. I'm not like in a situation where like I still feel everything that's going on now, but like because spend the time so like hopefully constructively, and there's a lot of positive things going on, I guess like a positive reflection of yourself can only help to make positive everyone else around you. You know, a happy me is a happier mum. People just assume and think, because obviously you're a musician, they think, oh, you got bare girls onto you and you got bare people caring and you got the attention. But
do you know what it is? That's social media, and that's one thing. Like speaking to people in this film, is people look and they think it's all up, 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 up. Yeah, bare girls, jewels, clubs. You're living the life, but I just wanted to show the reality of that. Speaking to these artists gave me an insight into the toll the music industry can put on your mind. I wanted to find out the science behind why young people are so much more likely to suffer from a mental illness. So I went to visit Dr. Sarah Jane Blakemore, a professor of cognitive neuroscience at UCL, to find out more. Thank you for inviting me into your office. And what is like one of the most interesting facts that you learned about the sort of young teenage adult brain?
So when I was doing my degree in psychology about 25 years ago, we were taught that the vast majority of brain development happens in early childhood and that the brain doesn't change much after childhood. We now know that that's completely wrong. In the last 20 years, many different labs around the world have done large studies where they scan children and adolescents and adults. They scan their brains using MRI scanning as they grow up, and all these studies have shown that in fact the human brain undergoes a really large amount of development and change right throughout childhood and throughout adolescence, and even into the 20s and 30s. Is there like an age that you experience depression more, get anxiety more, or is it hits all ages sort of thing? Most mental illnesses develop before the age of 24. So about 3/4 of mental illness will show itself before the age of 24. That's true for mood disorders like depression, anxiety, eating disorders, addictions, and things like even psychosis, like schizophrenia. This is a stressful time. You know, you're developing into an adult. You're going through puberty, which changes you physically. It changes the way everyone treats you. So it's like the kind of perfect storm for developing mental illness. Both these biological changes happening in your brain, plus a stressful social and work environment.
One of the taboos around mental illness is that you can't actually see it compared to a physical illness. Should we be treating it differently?
Yeah, there is a lot of stigma around mental illness, and I think part of the stigma is because people and society think about mental illness as different from physical illness. I think people find it are worried about admitting their mental health problems because they think they'll somehow be blamed for them and it's their fault and they should take it into their control and do something about it. But actually, that's the wrong attitude towards mental illness. We should start thinking about mental illness in the same way that we think about physical illnesses. People have very little control over them, and they are happening at a physical level in their brain. Just because you can't see it in a brain scan or a blood test doesn't mean that it's not there at a physical level. If the stigma is decreased, then people will start talking about it more, and that really, really helps.
I guess it's too early to truly understand the extent of the effects the internet has on our mental health. But what can you do today to improve your happiness? I'd heard mindfulness and meditation has been proven to alleviate stress and anxiety. Having never tried it myself, I was curious to find out more. I went to meet Holiday Phillips, a professional mindfulness and meditation teacher.
When you hear the word mindfulness and meditation, what comes into your mind? Yeah, a bald monk sitting on top of a mountain, oming, yeah? Okay, cool. So that's what people generally think when they think mindfulness meditation, which is why I think people are like, ugh, even though it is such an amazing solution in so many cases for mental health issues. When you strip away the robes and the monks and the om, what mindfulness essentially is the act of being in the present moment without judgment. That would be the definition of it. In day-to-day life, we'll be experiencing something, but what we're actually experiencing is all going on up in our heads. We're not just you and me having a conversation. We're me sitting here being like, we're having a conversation. Is what I'm saying interesting enough? Is it going to be used? Oh my gosh, I'm really worried about when I messed up a week ago. Does that make sense? And those kind of anxieties or self-doubt, self-criticism, none of that exists in the present moment. In the present moment, it's just you and me having a chat. So when people talk about mindfulness as a solution to mental health issues, they're talking about the fact that in the present moment, most of those issues don't really exist. They generally just exist in our mind, in the stories that we spin ourselves. So breathing in, and then take a deep breath out through the mouth. And take another one in your own time. And as you lie here and breathe with me, knowing that there is nothing else that you need to do and nowhere else that you need to be for just the next few minutes, except for lying and breathing. Congratulations, you're a meditator.
Do you know what, when I was doing it, I was like, obviously there's noise outside, so I was like, trying to cancel out the sound that was outside, and I'm trying to like, proper close my eyes where I'd like get lost in the world.
Yeah.
But obviously I got so much on so for that period of time I was just like trying to forget everything.
And that is, you know what, that is completely normal. Meditation is not about emptying your mind, it's about becoming friends with it. That's what a lot of people would describe.
And do you think that sort of like logic is helping with mental illnesses?
All of us are going to experience pain at some point in our life. What makes that pain even worse is when we try and resist it, or when we try and change it, or when we try and fight it, because then you're just adding a whole other layer on top. Meditation teaches you to sit with your pain and be okay with discomfort. So if we can do that, then all we're dealing with is just the pain as it is, not a whole other layer on top of I shouldn't be feeling like this, let me get over this, no one else feels like this. So I really think it can help, particularly with the stigma around mental health, people feeling they should be a certain way, whereas actually you are where you are and you are who you are, and that's perfect. So yeah, I think it helps.
Thank you.
No worries.
We all put time and effort into trying to keep up appearances, especially on social media. We pretend we're okay even if we're not. But opening up about your own depression is not a sign of weakness. If we want to beat the stigma surrounding mental health, we need to start talking about it openly and not be afraid to be ourselves even at the worst of times. Most importantly, we need to treat mental health as seriously as physical health, because anxiety and depression are real and have physical impacts on all aspects of your life.